Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Everything Entertainment Podcast, the independent news source for everything movies, video games, theme parks, basically anything we want to talk about. Eventually, I would like to add music and Broadway and stuff, but that's probably once we grow to the point where I can have some co-hosts and some other people besides me that are more knowledgeable in areas that I'm not. But anyways, it's been a busy week. It's been a great week, but let's go ahead and get into it as we always begin with the weekend box office report. So, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which we will be reviewing later in today's episode, opened to $45 million. It looks like it had adjusted down a little bit. It was like 45.3 or something when I checked yesterday. But overall, that's a pretty impressive. It actually ended up at the didn't exceed its projections, but it ended up at the higher end of its projections. And that's amid a flurry of negative reviews and a lot of people that had been seeing it that were coming out and saying, this movie's not that great. And there are reasons for that, but we will get into that when I get into my review of it. Coming in second, Dune Part 2. Again, this is probably going to be one of the biggest movies of the year. Worldwide, Dune Part 2 is sitting at $575.6 million. Well, that cannot be right. That cannot be... Let me go into... Yeah, it still says, I thought it was over 600 now. Anyways, 575 million. It's creeping up. It is starting to slow down, so that $1 billion mark does seem like it's going to be unrealistic. It's probably going to finish somewhere 650, 700 million, which is still very impressive for a non-Star Wars sci-fi franchise. Coming in at number 3, Kung Fu Panda 4. It's one of the only family films out there. I mean, you could make an argument that Ghostbusters is family friendly, but as far as like kids animation and something for the little ones, Kung Fu Panda 4 is probably one of the only ones available. So 16.5 million. Sydney Sweeney's Immaculate came in 4th. Big drop off here at 5.3 million, but for the budget and for how little promotion they were able to do for that, that is impressive for that. And then coming out in 5th was Mark Wahlberg's Arthur the King, which I've been hearing, it's your pretty typical heartfelt dog story. So that rounded at the top 5, but we've got I was looking over here at the worldwide numbers. Dune is obviously in the lead. There's only a couple movies that are coming out this year that I think are going to beat it. That at 575, like I said, I think it's going to hit 650, 700 million. Deadpool and Wolverine is going to blow past that. But other than that, Godzilla, I'm very interested to see how Godzilla does, because if Godzilla X Kong or Godzilla Kong, if it's well received and people love it and they start, Godzilla Kong could get up there. But other than that, I'm trying to think of, because the Fall Guy I think is going to be great. It's not going to make that kind of money. Joker's going to be great. It might get up there. Beetlejuice, I'm very interested, is another one. I'm very interested in seeing what the box office reception to Beetlejuice is, because we have seen movies that have exploded on social media, and then they don't do a ton at the box office because, more and more people are waiting for streaming to come out. So that, but yeah, Kung Fu Panda 4 is at second with 269 worldwide. Bob Marley at number 3 at 173. So that movie's really done, I think, a lot better than even Paramount expected it to. The Beekeeper, which was another huge hit, which is actually one that I missed, at 152 million. And then Mean Girls, which I still think, call me crazy, call me nuts, I understand. Mean Girls is still my second favorite movie of the year, and right behind Dune. It's at 104.4 million, which, when I have friends, and I know people that talk about how Wicked is going to be $1 billion movie, guys, Mean Girls, a musical, made 104.4 million, and in the musical community, that is considered a massive hit. I think Wicked could be great. I think it could do it a lot. It's going to pass by that 104. But I honestly think Wicked's ceiling is 550, 600 million. I don't think you're going to see Wicked hit that $1 billion mark. So that was our box office report. So let's go ahead and move on, because especially in the movies space, it was very, very busy. So I have 4 things that I talked about that I really wanted to cover today. The first one being Jurassic World. Some places are running with the title Jurassic City, but that is not a confirmed title. Jurassic World 4 or Jurassic City, whichever you want to say, We know that Gareth Edwards was coming to direct. Now, I loved Rogue One. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And I liked the creator. I had some problems with it, but I did like the creator. Now, he's directing the next Jurassic World movie. And Jurassic Park, or Jurassic World, depending on which one you want to call it, it is a franchise that I really love. Yes, I did not like Dominion, but other than, well, okay. It's the end of the trilogies, because I did not like Dominion and I did not like Jurassic Park 3, and I can't believe, I made like 3 videos about this week, and I can't believe I forgot about Jurassic Park 3. Well, there's a reason for that. But other than that, so 4 out of 6, that's pretty good. And of course, I think the original is one of the greatest films of all time. The Lost World, while it is very flawed, The Lost World is very flawed, it has its moments. It has some very fun, enjoyable moments. And then Jurassic World, I thought, was a return to form, even if it's a little cookie cutter. And Fallen Kingdom, I think Fallen Kingdom is one of those movies that gets a lot more hate than it deserves. Because when a lot of movies in this franchise and in this genre were just repeating the same story beats as their original, Fallen Kingdom, at the very minimum, you can say they took a swing. They tried to do some big things with it. So we've got that. And so moving on, Jurassic World, they are adding, this is all reports, so it has not been official. Scarlett's representation has not announced it, but Scarlett Johansson is reportedly going to be leading this next Jurassic movie, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest Scarlett Johansson fan. Nothing against her. But it's like when I see people saying she's like one of the best actresses today, I go, no. She's very serviceable. She's very good. Of course, she's iconic as Black Widow. But I've never seen anything from Scarlett Johansson outside of a couple things. Obviously, Marriage Story, incredible. Obviously, in Jojo Rabbit, incredible. The 2 that she got nominated for the Oscars. And I fully agreed with her getting the nomination for that. But, I just don't think, when people put her up with, the Meryl Streeps and the Amy Adams and the Cate Blanchetts and all them, I say, I don't think she's to that level. I don't think she's that good. But compared to who they could have added, to this Jurassic World movie, you couldn't go much worse than Scarlett Johansson. So, color me impressed. And if they're getting somebody of that caliber, it means there's probably something in David Koepp's script that interested her. So this might not be just a little throwaway dinosaur movie. So I'm very interested in seeing how this goes. We still don't know anything about the story. We don't know anything about the characters. We're going to probably find, I think, Comic-Con. And now we know that DC is not going to be there. But outside of, I guess, DC not showing up, I think that Comic-Con is going to be very, very interesting. Because there's a lot of stuff that we kind of know are coming. Yeah, there are 2 big events. We got San Diego Comic-Con in July, and then we got D23 in September, which there is a controversy with them. But I'm trying to debate if I want to talk about that later. You know what, we'll go ahead and do that in the My Take section after Ghostbusters, because I think that is an important thing to talk about. But other than that, Scarlett Johansson joining Jurassic World, I think this can only be a good thing. It can only be a good thing. So let's see, again, if it's a bad script and this turns into a bad movie, you could have put Meryl Streep in there and it's not going to save that movie. We've seen Meryl Streep put in good performances into bad movies before. So here's hoping, fingers crossed, let's hope they knock out another great Jurassic movie. Moving on, Joker 2. We still don't have a trailer. I think we're getting it in a couple weeks. I thought we were going to get Beetlejuice and Joker at CinemaCon. And I still think they're going to show a little extended look at Beetlejuice at CinemaCon. I'm not going. I'm going to be on the internet refreshing my Twitter feed and living vicariously through real journalists. I'm kind of hoping, long-term magic goals here. I'm kind of hoping in a couple years we can grow to the point where I can be on set and doing live podcast reactions to that. But we will discuss that at another date if we get to that point. But Joker 2, I do think the first trailer is going to come at CinemaCon. The trailer for the first Joker came at CinemaCon. But some new details came out, especially, so it kind of confirmed, these are all insiders who have apparently seen the current cut of the movie. And it confirmed that it is going to be a musical. Although, like, some of the sources I was reading from are kind of going, they're like, it is not the traditional musical as you would expect it. It's not like the Mean Girls style musical where people just burst out into song and dance at random intervals. It is not that kind of a thing. It's more of, you know, when they're dreaming, when they're in a sense of fantasy. This is just stuff that I have been hearing and reading online. I don't even know if that's real, but it's not going to be your typical musical. But one of the things that came out, because there are two styles of musical, if you followed like Broadway and stuff, there's your traditional musical where they write original songs to go along with the story. And then you also have the jukebox musical, which are more covers of your top 40 hits, covers, you know, something like Mamma Mia. They didn't write original songs, they're just taking other people's songs and applying them to their story. Apparently, Joker 2 is going to be the jukebox musical. It's going to be a lot of covers of classic songs. Again, it's a very wait and see. Well, even though I'm a big musical guy, I know, crazy, straight white guy likes musicals. I don't get it either, but I love it. Let's see. I had to refocus myself here. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, they have to make the movie good. And I'm interested to see how they do this with Joker. Because if you go back and you watch that original Joker film, it's a dark, it's a gritty, it's almost like a gangster noir piece. And say like, oh yeah, the next one's going to be a musical. You know, even I, as much as I like it, is like, really? Really? But we'll find out. We will find out. And we're going to know pretty soon. Because I think Todd Phillips is going to come out at CinemaCon, and they're going to lay it all out on the line with that first trailer and kind of show us exactly what this movie is. Now, I don't think Joker 2 is going to hit that $1 billion mark that the first one did. You know, the first one hit like 1.3 or 1.4 billion, didn't it? It was insane. It's like still, it's either the highest or the second highest grossing R-rated film of all time. It was huge. It was big. I don't think it's going to be that thing because, you know, just like a lot of things, it's not everyone loved the first Joker, and I think it was kind of just a product of the year it came out. But, well, if it's good, you know, when we sit down to watch it, we're not going to care about the last one making $1 billion. It's going to be like, was Joker 2 good or was Joker 2 bad? And we'll find out. Other than that, again, until we get a trailer, it's kind of just... But supposedly it has 15 musical numbers, which is pretty accurate. It's pretty about right for most musicals. Well, we'll find out. We will know here very soon. Let's go ahead and move on. Beetlejuice 2. Like I said, it got its first trailer. I thought they were going to hold that for CinemaCon, but right before Ghostbusters released on Thursday, they dropped the first look at Beetlejuice. And I sat down and I watched it and I went, no, I'm one of those that I like the first Beetlejuice. I'm not like a huge fan. Where I really became a big fan of Beetlejuice was, as we just talked about it, was at the musical. The Broadway, if you have not watched the Broadway performance, or if you don't have access to it right now, go on your Apple Music, Amazon Music, whichever one you have, Spotify, and listen to the soundtrack for the Beetlejuice musical. It is probably one of the best suggestions I can give you, because that is one of the... If you like that style of music, it is one of the best Broadway albums I have ever listened to. And I've listened to a lot of them. Yes, it's not as classic Broadway as Les Mis or Mamma Mia or anything like that. But in terms of like modern, poppy style Broadway music, it's incredible. The show is incredible. The humor is great. And for years, right after I saw that, and I saw it 3 years ago now, 2 years ago. I saw it 2 years ago now. I said I wanted a film adaptation of the Beetlejuice musical instead of a Beetlejuice 2. I felt that it was... But Tim Burton disagreed. And who am I to argue with Tim Burton? The man is more successful than I will ever be. So I will defer to his judgment when it comes to script writing and storytelling. So Tim Burton wanted to bring back Michael Keaton. And, you know, this trailer... It hits all the notes. You see Jenna Ortega, you know, riding past the bridge, and you see the house, and you see the diorama, And then, of course, it ends with Michael Keaton back in the suit. And even I, who say I like the musical better, even though I do like the Michael Keaton movie. And, you hear Michael Keaton do that voice, the juice is loose. Even I went, oh, we are back. We are back. And so I am extremely excited for this. I thought that for a first announcement trailer, yes, we don't know any of the story. We really don't. But, and you see that. Remember a few weeks ago, I mentioned that Michael Keaton was talking about how they wanted this movie to feel homemade. They wanted to return to practical sets and practical effects and all that. You see that in this trailer, even though it's only like 70 seconds long. You see the practical sets and stuff in this trailer, and it looks beautiful. Again, and I've mentioned this before, I love doing practical sets. I understand there are times when you're on alien planets or something like that, you have to do the volume or green screen or blue screen or anything like that. But man, there's just something special about somebody walking into a house and you can tell that they are in a house. It really makes that immersive feeling pop. And yeah, it hits you in all the nostalgia. That trailer hits you in all the nostalgic beats, and I just went, you know what? I freaking love this. Now, I'm sure that the next trailer that's probably coming, I'm gonna guess June, maybe July. That's gonna come. That's gonna probably give us a little bit more of the story, and then we can get from that point. We'll get a better indication of how good is this trailer going to be? How good is this movie going to be? Because while I'm excited for it, and while I would consider myself a Tim Burton fan, I'm not going to lie. Like, when was Tim Burton's last good movie? And I've tried to, because Miss Peregrine's didn't work out. I'm trying to think of what else he did recently. Yeah, he's on a string of flops. I want to say that, like, Frankenweenie was his last great movie, because he's just... And I consider myself, and like, you have movies like Sweeney Todd, which I adore, but I know a lot of people don't like that. And so, here's hoping. But, of course, what is Tim Burton coming off of with Beetlejuice? He's coming off of Wednesday, that I really enjoyed, and I was like, yeah, that was really good. I really had a lot of fun with that. But then I saw, like, people putting it as, like, their top show of the year and stuff, and I was like, whoa, that shocks me. Overall, a great trailer, a wonderful trailer. I'm very excited to see what we're going to see next from Tim Burton and this Beetlejuice team, because I think if they can make this movie good, then I think it might make a decent amount of money. I don't think it's going to be a $1 billion movie, but I think that, this is going to be very much, if they drop the ball on the next trailer, this movie's going to make $35 million opening weekend and crap out. But, I mean, if they put out another couple great looks at it, I think you're talking 60, 70, 80 million. I really do. I think, especially seeing the reactions to that trailer, it's one of my most viewed articles on the website and on my YouTube channel is my review of the trailer. So, I think there's definitely an interest in that. So, yeah, we'll find out. We will find out in a couple weeks at CinemaCon. Of course, I'm going to do... once the week ends, I'll probably do a bonus episode with like a full discussion about everything that happened. But I'll let you guys know when we get closer to it. Moving on. So this just broke this morning, and I already have a video on the or a video on TikTok and on YouTube, and we've got an article on the website about it. So Jerry Bruckheimer was doing an interview with comicbook.com where he confirmed that Pirates of the Caribbean they're still working on the next installment, but they're throwing away the Johnny Depp universe, and it is fully going to be a reboot. Now, I'm wondering, do they mean with all new characters, or are we recasting the Captain Jack Sparrow? That is kind of like my biggest question mark with this. But I also went, you know what? This is probably for the best. Because while obviously no one is going to take away that Captain Jack Sparrow is one of Johnny Depp's most iconic roles. But there are two things. One, and let's take the Amber Heard stuff out of it. what happened, if you go and you read some of the stuff that happened with the last movie and even the movie before that, Johnny Depp was known for coming in late. He was known for often coming to work drunk and high and doing all that. And hey, I'm not going to judge his life choices. He's that kind of a person. But when you're literally spending thousands of dollars an hour on making a movie, having your main star always causing those kinds of problems. That's why Disney was trying to drop him before all the Amber Heard stuff. Now, I know there's some conflicting reports with that, but that is just some stuff that I have read and have seen. And that may not even be true. I fully acknowledge that may not even be true, but I've seen like reports from his ex-agents that have said they had trouble getting him work because of his reputation on set. Other than that, we go to the ending of that last movie. I think it was Dead Man Tell No Tales. Wasn't that the last one? And for me, it was pretty clear that they were clearly running out of steam. They were running out of ideas for what to do with the Jack Sparrow character, to where I remember one of my first things coming out of that was, if for this franchise to continue on, they needed to move beyond the Captain Jack Sparrow character. They absolutely needed to move on beyond Johnny Depp. And I was very excited when they were talking about one with Margot Robbie, and then everyone got confused because they announced the Margot Robbie one, and then like 2 months later they announced a separate Pirates of the Caribbean movie with Karen Gillan, and I think it just confused everybody. And then last year Margot Robbie confirmed that the one she was working on was dead. And I was actually at a point, the more this kind of chaos has gone back and forth, I was at a point where I was about to go, you know what? Maybe it's just best if Disney goes, we had a great few movies. It's time to just let it go. It's time to just let this franchise go, at least for a little bit. But Jerry Bruckheimer says they're working on it. And what I found out in this article, and hey, some of y'all that are more into movies than even I, and I consider myself a pretty big cinephile, not the biggest, but a big cinephile, may have already known this, but Craig Mazin is developing the script for this reboot. Craig Mazin developed Chernobyl, which I think is one of the greatest limited series ever made. He developed The Last of Us, which was probably the best show of last year. So that alone gets me more excited for this reboot. But we will find out. As I say with everything, we will find out. Again, there is a chance that this movie's going to come out and we're going to go, they should have done a sixth movie with Johnny Depp. One of the things that's going to annoy me here, as it hits my mind, there are people that are already, I can already hear them tapping away at their keyboards. Bring Johnny Depp back or don't make the movie at all. Listen, and I know I said I think it was time to move on, but even if they had a good story, if they wanted to do another Johnny Depp movie, and you do it well, then do another Johnny Depp movie. But for me, I thought it was time to move on. But again, a good movie is a good movie, a bad movie is a bad movie. We are honestly still 2 to 4 years, I would expect, at a minimum. There's a good chance we're still going to be waiting on this movie 5 years from now. I mean, with the way Hollywood works and with the development timelines, that will not surprise me at all. Other than that, again, we will find out. So, Pirates is getting a reboot. Now we're going to move on to the gaming news. So, gaming has been very, very light the past few weeks. Like, I've been trying to find news, and it's been very difficult to find real gaming news, because a lot of the news websites that I go to are mostly talking about sales and things like that. And I'm not even going to shame them, because I understand for a lot of these websites, affiliate links are their biggest money makers. So I'm not going to shame them for that. It's hard to find the actual news in a lot of these websites. And maybe that's constructive criticism, but that's just what I've experienced. But one thing broke down. One thing broke out of the mainstream and really built up over the past few days that I thought we were going to go ahead and discuss. And originally I wasn't going to, because personally, and this is probably my own conflict avoidant personality. I was like, this is too hot to handle on my podcast. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about it. So, one of the most anticipated of the year's one of the most anticipated games of the year dropped last week with Dragon's Dogma 2. And the second the game dropped, all of a sudden, all of these microtransactions and easy pay items showed up on the Steam page and on the PlayStation Store and Xbox Store and all that. And it sent the internet into a absolute frenzy. It reminded of when, I think it was Tales of Vesperia that came out back on the 360. That also sent the internet into a frenzy because you could just buy levels. You could just buy experience. You could buy you could buy legendary weapons. And there are two very, very passionate camps about this. I have seen... Now, okay, I will go both ways on this. Okay, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. Because what I have seen is that the people that are saying, hey, these are perfectly optional, all these things that you could purchase for $99, $1, $3, are all stuff that are not only obtainable in-game, they're very easily obtainable in-game. This isn't a spend $5 or grind for dozens of hours to get a single item like a lot of mobile games do. This is stuff that is apparently very easy. I say this as somebody who's not played the game yet. What I will also say, and maybe this kind of throws the monkey wrench in, a lot of those people that are saying like, hey, it's not that big of a deal, it's completely optional, are also the ones that are giving the game overwhelmingly positive reviews, talking about how much they're loving the game. And it is possible to separate those. Because I've seen a few people that are like, you know, I do love the game. I thought it was great. But, you know, when you load up your Steam and you get ready to click the little play button and right underneath it you see a bunch of stuff for sale, kind of takes the winds out of your Steam, especially once you've already paid $70 for the game, which is kind of where I am with that. I understand this is where it comes difficult for me as somebody who is a journalist, but has also studied game development, who's also studied film production. This is where I get, because game development is so expensive and it takes so much time to get these things out, that clearly they have to make up that money somewhere. I had the chance to talk to somebody a few months ago, and I'm not going to tell you what game it was on. It was, but you may be able to understand from this. They basically said when they started working on the game that he was working on, that it was meant to be a story, narrative-driven, single-player game. And two things happened. One, they realized that even at their most optimistic sales projections, they were not going to be able to break even. Second, corporate also got involved and went, well, Fortnite makes like $6 billion a month. Why are we not making that? And so that's when all of a sudden you saw all these cosmetic upgrades and stuff. And then it became a live service game, which is completely irrelevant because Dragon's Dogma 2 is not a live service game, at least from everything I've heard. It's a very single player offline RPG. And it looks incredible. I have made the decision because I am so far behind. Like, basically, before I can even consider getting Dragon's Dogma, I have to finish Rebirth, and I have to finish Persona 3. Those are, like, the two that I'm absolutely working on. And, funny story, because I am loving Persona 3 so much, I went and bought 4 and 5. I don't just become a casual fan, guys. I let it consume me. I'm like, oh, I've never played a Persona game. I tried it a few years ago and didn't like it. And, yeah, so now I own 4 and 5. Now, when am I going to get around to those? Probably eventually. My plan is to have them both finished this year, because if you guys look, after, like, July, we have nothing else the rest of the year. So, 2024, the year of the backlog. Back to Dragon's Dogma 2, though. The microtransactions have really set people off one way or another. Now, the one thing, while I understand it, there's a lot of people that make the slippery slope argument. And in some ways, I make that too, because I go back to when mobile games started. You know, that is exactly what happened with mobile games. Was, oh, we're going to let you just buy a cute little hat for your character to wear. And, you know, if you want to spend the extra money, you can, but we're not going to. And now it's, you know, you can't even get 30 minutes into a mobile game without having to pay $20. And then, you know, they keep throwing stuff at you. And then they start making the game so hard that you have to buy the power-ups. And, like, literally some, not all of them. I know there are some well-meaning, good developers of mobile games. I 100% believe that. But there are some that I swear run their mobile games like a Ponzi scheme. Literally, there's no intention other than to drain wallets dry. We'll have to see. Capcom has not responded to this, as far as I'm aware. But I think sales have been pretty good. I think that everything... It's an online conversation. It's an online conversation. Again, if you're okay with that and you still like the game, go ahead and do it without buying them. If you want to buy them, buy them. If I do buy the game, and I probably will eventually, I will not get these, especially now that I know they're easily obtained in the game. But I also understand why there's people that already are paying $70 for this game and are going, oh, now they want me to buy more stuff. And, you know, and it's probably going to have a couple DLC packs. I think they've already talked about that, haven't they? So we haven't even seen the end of the microtransactions in the DLC. Which for me, and, you know, I've been thinking about this and I'm like, I understand DLC. I understand, especially with like 6-7 year development timelines. Extending the life of your game. That's important. Maybe we should, instead of making these little tiny DLC packs, maybe we should go back to the idea of the expansion pack. You know, where you get 10, 15, 20 additional hours, a new class to play, new characters, you know, a whole new story. Maybe we should go back to that instead of these little micro sections. I think gamers will be a lot more appreciative of that. Maybe that is just me being an old fart. Completely possible. But we'll learn. Okay. What am I up to? So, honestly, not a whole lot. Because the last 2 weeks I have been so busy. But I could finally tell you guys, I officially passed the halfway point of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Remember when I said, and I'm still planning to, I am still planning to do a open spoiler discussion bonus episode of Rebirth once I finish the story. I've also said, though, if I get to like the end of April and I still haven't finished it, I may have to throw in the towel, because I feel like the longer it gets out from that game, the less interested most of y'all are going to be in listening to it. So right now I'm still planning to, but depending on when I can finish it, I'm probably putting everything else aside right now because I really want to get through it. But I'm also a completionist, and this is true story. Funny moment. Last night I was about to just throw in the towel, and I said, screw all the mini games, screw the open world stuff. We are just gonna plow through to the end of the story to say that we did it, and like another 20 hours or so, and I'll be done. I could tell you that lasted about 30 minutes. I took the buggy and I drove it into Gongaga and started doing a couple things in there when I was just like looking at the map and looked at the stuff that I missed in Corel, and I went, and immediately turned around and drove back to Corel and finished it up. Because I cannot leave open map markers. There's a reason why it took me like 7 years to finish The Witcher 3. For that reason too. But overall, I still really enjoy it. Like, way more positive than negative. I have two major things. One, the mini games. I said this at the last episode. There's just too many. Like, maybe we should stick to one mini game per town, guys. I understand you want to have variety and you want to have difference, but whew, Gold Saucer was a good place to do multiple mini games. That 100% agree with that. But like, and there's also moments of the narrative where it just kind of like spins its own wheels just to say that there's more content. Like, I'm sorry, Costa del Sol did not need to be a full chapter by itself. I know there's probably some people that love that chapter, and hey, it was a fun chapter, but I also still say that could have been half of the chapter, and then the other half could have been climbing Mount Corral. It's just, and also the other thing that, and this got me, like I said, I was going back to Corral. Once you've crossed into a new region, you cannot fast travel to the previous region. And I went, that is annoying. And maybe that changes. Maybe that changes after I finish the game. But, what am I saying? But yeah, the fact that I could not fast travel, and I found out there's a couple of materia I missed in the grasslands, and that is a walk. That is a walk to get all the way back just to get those materia. So that might be a stop by and grab it when I do it on hard mode. I just, but overall, I have more positive things to say. I think the character work, just like it was in Remake, the character work is so incredible. I think as far as voice acting goes, it's probably one of the best voice acted games I have heard in years. Because like the whole ensemble cast is excellent. The combat is fun, it's engaging. I love how they didn't make it a button smasher. It is very strategic, and you have to understand weaknesses and how to pressure and all that. You have to almost approach it as a turn-based RPG, even in an action setting, and that is very impressive. But yeah, outside of the fast travel issues, the story kind of stalls for just to add content, and the fast travel issues. Other than that, I think it's excellent. Right now, if I were to review it right now, I'd probably have, I keep floating between a 3.5 and a 4 out of 5. That's where I'm at. So it's not perfect. It's not as spectacular and amazing as I wanted it to be, but it's also, it's good. It's also not terrible. It's not terrible. But I've also been still working on Persona 3. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I thought I was about halfway through Persona 3 Reload. And then I looked up a thing and I was like, oh no, we're not even close. So here's hoping. And once I finish Rebirth, then we can pile in and work on that. You know, probably I'm going to finish 3 before I start on 4. That's simple, logical progression there. And then finally, I did the other day when I don't have access to my PlayStation, I got on the computer and I went back to Baldur's Gate 3. That is probably not going to be one I play on stream because I suck at it. The dice hate me. But it's one of those games that I think is incredible. It has a lot of heart, a lot of emotion. You can tell that it's developed by a team of experts who understood the craft of game development. There's a few things that just for me are like nitpicky kind of things, and I don't understand the combat system or anything like that really, but that's an on me thing. I'm not going to hold that on the developers. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on. So Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I did get the chance to see that earlier this week. And I saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I have to say, in a pure thumbs up and thumbs down world, I liked it. There's some significant problems with it. But overall, I thought when this movie understands what kind of a movie it should be, it is fun. It is just enjoyable. And, you know, there's some really good jokes with it. Obviously, like the mini puffs are adorable, even though, and we'll get to this in a moment, they had no reason to be in this movie, but they are still fun to watch. I thought that, you know, Paul Rudd does great. Dan Aykroyd steals the show. Like, of all that entire cast, it feels like Dan Aykroyd was the one who was absolutely trying to make this movie a thing. But, you know, you had Paul Rudd, you had Carrie Coon, you had Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace. All of them really good in this movie. You know, various degrees of good, but all of them are good. And I think that once it gets into the main story, the villains are wonderfully designed. Yes, they're very generic, ancient evil wants to destroy the world, but I thought their design, the creature design on them was wonderful. I was like, ooh, that's a really good artistry there. But unfortunately, as good as that all is, there's a couple of big issues. One, this movie takes too long to get to its main villain. I don't even think they mention the main villain's name until like well past the halfway point. And it just kind of spins its wheels, and probably because of my second thing. While there are, you know, and if you've read any review for Frozen Empire, you know, this movie is like a love letter to the original Ghostbusters. And pretty much every other time somebody turns a corner, there's some reference or callback or cameo or something to that original movie. And there are some moments that it works, and it works well in the story. Unfortunately, there's a lot of like, oh, that was only there for fan service. Like, and I mentioned the Stay Puffs. Yeah, they did not need to be in this movie. They were literally just in there to be like, oh, look at those cute little things, to sell the plushes. Slimer does not need to be in this movie. He's just there to be there. There's also a couple of, like, this is a minor spoiler, but, like, there's a scene when they're in the library, and that's in the trailers. But you see Dan Aykroyd running down, you know, through the rows of bookshelves, and he turns around, and sure enough, there's that librarian ghost. Shh. Like, no reason for that to be there, other than to be like, hey, kids, remember that thing you liked 40 years ago? And I understand, when you're making a movie like this, you want to have a little bit of that fan service. But, like, it just so... And I'm one of the ones who I loved Afterlife. And Afterlife had its fair share of those moments as well. But this movie really does. Like, director Gil Keenan, you know, one of your responsibilities when you're directing a legacy franchise like this is to have a story to tell. This does not seem like Gil Keenan had a story he wanted to tell. He wanted to tell the audience how much he loved the original Ghostbusters. Just like we love the original Ghostbusters. It's an iconic piece of cinema. But yeah, the nostalgia, it is overload at times. It is crazy. But other than that, like if you could get past that and you could get past how slow it is, there's enough fun in this movie that I think if you're just going to sit down and you're going to have a soda and some popcorn and see how it goes on, you're going to have fun. You're going to have fun. Like, I enjoyed it. There's definitely a lot of problems that need to be addressed if they do future installments. But thumbs up, thumbs down, I would recommend this. I think that if you like the Ghostbusters story and you like those characters, you should at least give it a shot. That is probably the best that I could do in 3 minutes or 5 minutes and let you know. I do have more I could probably say, but we'll leave it there for now. Now, next week, Godzilla vs. Kong, which is pretty much going to kill Ghostbusters box office. Ghostbusters is expected to take like a 70% drop, and it's probably going to take even more. And Godzilla Kong is not going to do that great. It's only projected right now at around 50 million. But overall, it was a great week. I'm very excited to... I am trying to find time to get out to see Godzilla Kong, so I cannot tell you if I'm going to review it on Tuesday yet. I'm hoping. If not, it'll be the week after that. I am seeing, because I got tickets to see Late Night with the Devil tomorrow, and then I got Easter stuff with family on Sunday, which is why I can't go see Godzilla. But we'll find out. So that does it for this episode. It was a little bit scatterbrained. I apologize, guys, but thank you for dealing with me. Thank you for listening. If you want to follow all the latest news, I post new articles daily on everythingentertainment.network. If you want to see a video version of my clips and articles, you can go ahead and go to YouTube at the Everything Entertainment Network. Follow me at Twitter at EveEntNetwork. And you can follow me on Instagram too at the Everything Entertainment Network, where I'll be posting new videos and all that. So thank you all so much for listening. And we are doing our first live stream. I have not decided yet. Our first live stream on YouTube this Friday. We are either going to do a gaming live stream or we're going to do like kind of what we do here. Hopefully a little bit better organized. I'm getting better. We are learning. And we learn by doing. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on the podcast next Tuesday.